I grew up here in Lake County. I made a lot of bad choices as far as, alcohol and drugs and partying heavily for 16 years straight, in and out, minor arrests, nothing major, but I just traveled the wrong path, not knowing the Lord at all. I dabbled in vacation Bible school and stuff when I was younger, thankfully through my Aunt Julie and Uncle Truman. I did a little bit of Wednesday stuff, and but I never took off with Jesus Christ or anything like that. She worked at Kmart along with a couple other friends, and I kept hearing about this woman Natalie, or this girl Natalie. Yeah, 16, 17-year-old girl. I kept hearing about Natalie, and then actually had a friend that was keeping her away from me, that I wouldn't meet her. And then when we met, I honestly said there was chemistry right from the beginning. And then we dated off and on, and I didn't want her to get wrapped up in my shenanigans. This is a great girl, and I've told her that one time when we broke up, and I don't know if she understood what I was talking about, but I didn't want to mess her life up.
Well, I would say, as Buck said, we met at Kmart on and off again, boyfriend and girlfriend, and I think it was January of my senior year in high school when we decided that we weren't going to be together anymore. He had said that, try not to cry. He had said that, I had way too much going on for me. I had a scholarship. I was planning on going to FSU, and he didn't want to mess any of that up. So fast forward to first 2 weeks of college. We had a big party. We had all of our friends there, and I definitely necessarily wasn't living right at the time either. And so we had a big party, and then of course school started, and then 2 weeks later found out that I was pregnant. And so that was obviously a surprise, and wasn't anticipating, to start college and also have a baby. So we talked about, hey, how are we going to make this work? Super scary time because, we were babies ourselves. But I would say that, unequivocally, he said, we're going to make this work. We're going to make this work. And we didn't have anything, right? We didn't have money. We didn't have really resources. I had super supportive parents who were willing to pay for my college, and he had super supportive family who was willing to help us. And that's what we went on at the time. And unfortunately, it wasn't the Lord as it should have been, but we kind of placed our faith in each other. And so he moved up to Tallahassee, and we decided we were going to try our best to make a life for each other, and we had Alexis. Alexis's due date was May 12th, 2000. She came right on time, and by far, the biggest blessing at the time that we could have ever had, and still is. And so it's really neat when you think about our life plan now, 20 years later, what that really truly looks like. And obviously more to come with the story as we go, but God knew all along what our plan was.
At the age of 31, I was working for a lawn maintenance company, a big, huge company out in Sanford, working a lot of hours. I've always worked a lot of hours. Unfortunately, I picked the wrong fields to work in. I picked fields to work in to where I could drink alcohol and use drugs all day during the day. So unfortunately, I was always a hard worker. At this point, I always wanted to work, still hang out with my friends. I'd always have something going on, like, so-and-so is working on their car over here, so I'd get home from work and go help so-and-so. And then now it's 11, 12, 1 o'clock at night while my family's at home, trying to be a good father, trying to be a good husband, trying to be a good worker, and I was in a tug of war. I was being pulled in all these different directions, but I wanted to keep doing all the stuff that I was doing, the drugs and alcohol. And then I finally realized my dad, he got into a really bad wreck. And I remember going into the woods and pulling him out of the truck. Got him to the hospital, and he didn't get a DUI, another one. He's in the hospital, I don't know, for a week, 5 or 7 days, and gets out of the hospital and goes right back to drinking. Didn't skip a beat. And that made me realize that I'm heading in that direction. And I said something has to change. So I, without Natalie knowing or anybody knowing, I started researching rehabilitation places in Florida. Just nothing was happening. I found this place in Tennessee, and they suggested that I, leave the state, leave the area that you're in and check it out. So I went out and checked out this place in Tennessee. But I was in a tug of war, and that was my breaking point. And I didn't want to have a rough time with alcohol and drugs like I've seen with family in the past. My mother and father, they were young as well, and they had me. We all were a tight-knit family. My dad was a hard worker. He, had his struggles, with alcoholism, and his family had alcoholism. I mean, on my mom's side, everybody, we all struggled with alcohol and drugs. But we're a tight-knit family. They cared for us. They provided for us. Me and my little brother, we were always into sports. We were always busy and very, very active. However, they have taught me some of my worst traits at that time. We were always around alcohol. We were always around tobacco. I would always smell people smoking marijuana, and we were always partying. We were always at family parties, friend parties, and in a nutshell, I was taught to party. Well, Natalie had her hanging out with some friends, and because I was working and all this at the time, I wasn't carrying. She was hanging out with some healthy friends, the Gordons, and the Gordons would be taking Alexis to church, to the VBS's, to Awana. This is where it started at, was Awana, and luckily she had them hanging or let them go with them. And then so once I got out of rehab, I started going to Awana, and then these leaders are telling me, your daughter's been praying for you for years. And that meant a lot to me, for not knowing, and me being new to all this is like, wow, so I learned immediately what prayer does. And so I'm thankful that Nellie made a good choice on having her hanging with good people. That started my Christian walk.
So I met Rebecca, which is one of the Gordons, in kindergarten. So we were hanging out since kindergarten, and we went to rehab when I was in 5th grade, 4th or 5th grade. So it was about 4 or 5 years. Me and her, we were best friends, like really best friends. She moved to become homeschooled instead of going to Umatilla. So I was able to go over there all the time because she was always home after school. Mom would be working, he'd be working. I would just go over there. Wednesdays, they'd drive me to church. We went to this little church that was by Save-A-Lot first. That's where I first started church, and that's actually where I got saved. I got saved there too, with their pastor there, and I got baptized in 2008. So I was 8 years old when I was baptized, so I just hit my 11-year anniversary. And I was on May 30th, and I remember, they all came to my baptism, and when I started going to church, I had Miss DJ and Mr. Tim. I was in the older class, TNT, I think is what it's still called. And they were asking for some ideas on different things to do and whatnot. And so we voted on like a prayer board. So you would take these index cards, and every week you could write down as many as you wanted. And then you would just go and you would pin it on the board. And then at the end of the night, Mr. Clint, which is our neighbor,
He's right next door.
yeah, he was the commander at the time. And so every night, you know, he'd close us out, and Mr. Tim would go up there and, you know, read out some of the prayers. Wouldn't say who they were from, but just in general. And I think like every Wednesday, I would probably write like 5. And they weren't even about, you know, I want my dad to get saved. I hope my dad gets saved. And they weren't even that. It was little things like, you know, I hope my dad is nice to my mom, or, you know, I hope he's home more. Or, you know, I wish, you know, I could get a cat, or, you know, something like that. Little things. And then when it started getting worse, specifically, I remember vividly, I think it was like right when Ava was born. Me and Mom were in the bathroom, and we were washing Ava in the tub. And I remember Mom, she was like, she was so distraught. And, you know, she sat down with me and she was like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Like, they were married at this time. She was like, I don't know if I could do this anymore. And I remember I got so upset and I told her, which was very wrong to do, but I said, you know, if you guys break up or divorce, I'm not living with either of you. I'm not going back and forth. I'm staying with Nana. I remember saying that, but honestly, I think that's what kept her going, because she knew how bad that would hurt me. And I would often, he'd come home upset and angry, and I would just go right down the road to my friend's house. I had a few friends because I just didn't want to be there. So when that started happening, that's when I started praying more on that board, being more detailed on like things I can do, like Lord, lead me in the right direction, individually praying with multiple people about it, having groups, being there for other kids my age. And granted, I was only in 4th grade at this time. So, and then I remember before he went to rehab, I gave him a Bible. It was my first Bible. And I handed it to him, and he said, all right, I'm gonna read this whole thing. I was like, no, you're not. Like, it takes years to read the whole Bible. You're not gonna read it in 3 months. But I was like, okay, like you could try, read as much as you want. You know, I had given that to him, and in the back, my pastor, Pastor Charlie, had written in it and whatnot. And then he comes back and he said that the guy that he talked to, his name was Charlie. So that was really cool that had happened. So it was just, it's a great story. That just a little prayer board, and you don't even need the prayer board, just prayer in general. But you know, more prayers are better, I guess. You know, so me putting that little stick up there had 50 plus kids in the room praying for it, whether they wanted to or not. We were all praying for it anyways. So yeah, that was probably, you know, I'm just thankful for Awana leaders.
So in rehab in Tennessee, I got saved there, and I got baptized there, and I did a little bit more time in there, and I dedicated to myself and to the Lord that when I get out, I'm staying focused on my kids first, no matter what. I'm gonna be there for them, and just continue on my straight path. Okay, so as soon as I get out, I started helping Miss DJ, and Alexis's Awana class. I think that was your last year.
Yeah, you started when I went to youth.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then, so I helped out. I started helping out there and fell in love with Awana instantly. And I went back, and then me and DJ were leaders together one more year. And then they had some people, evolve, and I think they actually expanded to more people. And then I became my own leader. So in this whole time, I've been going to church. I've been truly believing in it, reading His Word. I could do better at reading His Word. I have been at Awanas the whole time. You know, I just finished my 8th year there, and you know, I'm graduating, I guess you could say, to youth. So I'm a little nervous about that, just, you know, the whole change thing, and I know it'll be fine because I'm doing it for the Lord, you know. But I also have been, I think the last 3 years, been a Celebrate Recovery leader. So that's what I do on Monday nights, and that's just amazing where I could help use my testimony to help other people want to hear from people that's been through it. As soon as I got saved and baptized that day, it has not been the same, you know. But I'm thankful for our church. A lot of people, you know, I've had a few people talk about how crazy I am. We're dealing with children, mentally ill, and drug and alcoholics, you know. But that's where I fit in. I've changed. I've still even changed dramatically of serving the Lord. That's what I truly believe on, is giving back to the community, giving back to Him by helping others. I go, you know, the last 2 or 3 years I've helped with Century Kid, volunteering there, chaperoning there. Of course, VBS. I invest my time in the Lord by serving for Him. You know, we have a very busy week. You know, Monday Celebrate Recovery, usually Tuesdays soccer, Wednesdays Awanas or church, Thursdays soccer out there, and Friday nights I help sometimes with Celebrate Recovery in Umatilla. It's been a little while. And then Saturday we get some family time in, and Sunday church. You know, 2 services, and with going to church and teaching the 3rd service. So I truly believe I'm a true advocate of volunteering in your community for the Lord. That's what keeps me plugged in. And I tell the children all the time, you guys, you're learning a lot, and you think I'm teaching a lot. I'm learning just like you are. And you know, some of them believe it and some of them don't understand that, but at my level of coming in so late of age, that's where I am. I'm right there with them, and they teach me just as much too. I want to invest in the next generation. I'm nothing without Jesus Christ. Nothing. If He didn't come into my life, I wouldn't be here right now. No way. You guys wouldn't be here right now. It was close. Things were getting bad very quick, and He saved me out of it as soon as I believed in Him. He's had my back ever since. And I can't pay Him back for that. The only way for me to do is to do what I'm doing, if not more. Help the next generations, helping Him and wherever He wants me to go with the church, and I'm down for it.
When you and Dad would always argue, it was always sad. And I remember that it was a big change because I didn't really understand, and then I started to see that I started to not see any more of the beer or any drugs or anything like that. I never saw the drugs.
The behavior.
Yeah, and the behavior was a lot better, and I see how he, like, they don't argue really at all, and it was just a really big change, and it's an example for me that not to do that because that if, and he always said when you start doing it, it's really hard to stop, and I don't want to be in that situation to where if I ever, and he always tells me not to do it, and I don't plan on doing it.
I think when I started in middle school, that's when he was, getting involved in Awanas and whatnot. And I remember being kind of frustrated with him because he was still smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
And I had begged him to stop over and over. Stop. he starts helping out Awanas, and he comes home one day, I want to stop because I don't want the kids to smell smoke on me. And I'm like, well, what about me? Like, I've been asking you, you know? And so he stopped then. And honestly, you know, cigarettes are still, it's an addiction, and it can be a gateway, you know, to many other things. And when he stopped that, and I know that was the hardest thing to do, he was addicted to gum. There was gum everywhere.
Addictive personality.
And but after that moment, you know, you could see the change of heart. I'm not close with my friend Rebecca that much anymore, just because being homeschooled and being in a regular high school was just really different. But my other best friend Holly, she lived right down the road. She sees the change. She sees his post all the time on Facebook, and she'll send it to me. She'll be like, I can't believe this is coming from your dad. She's like, I would have never thought that this would happen. And you know, I've made some new friends being away from home, and I tell them my dad's story. My friend Rachel, she's like, there's no way. That was not your dad. Your dad wouldn't be like that. And it's just like, there's proof that you can change. And he really changed, but he had to do it. He had to want it. I was sitting there throwing Bible verses at him every single day, you know, trying to, you know, get him to come with me to church, and it doesn't work unless they want to do it. You can't change somebody unless they want to be changed, and even then they can't change themselves. You got to reach out to a higher person, which is God. No one else can help you. They can assist you, lead you in the right way, but I just think that the moral of our family's testimony is, you know, surround yourself with people that push you to be better, and then, you know, want to be better for yourself, and then ultimately, you know, lean on God, because he's the only one that has your back through everything. So yeah.
All right, and I would say to kind of piggyback off what has changed when Buck went to rehab, I remember he had written us a letter, and I remember opening the letter, and I read the whole thing through. And Alexis was outside swimming.
Yeah.
I remember being in the laundry room, and I like dropped the letter, and I was like, "Is this from him?" And I was like, "Your dad you're not going to believe it. Like, your dad has decided to be a Christian, because, you know, the first thing he had said is, you know, if I'm going away, I'm not going to, you know, some Christian place." And that was the very first thing that he said. And so there was the excitement there, but at the time I didn't know that Alexis had been praying so much, so obviously much more impactful to you at the time than me. And then I would say, you know, naturally, being human, I was very skeptical, because I thought, well, how will he be when he comes home and he faces all the temptations and the same friends and the same job and the same lifestyle? And of course, you know, as Buck had mentioned, he changed his job, and he changed his career completely, and he made sure that he was well connected. And I think that's what helped us see the change. And then, of course, we started going to church, going to FBCU, and then I know Alexis rededicated her life, and then I was saved shortly after, in 2011, when we started attending. And so it was the full circle, and I can say, you know, unequivocally, a completely different person, but the person that I always knew was there. Even as a young 18-year-old girl who was pregnant and scared that, you know, everyone said, "Oh my gosh, what do you see in this guy?" And there was so much more, but it was only through the power of Jesus Christ that it came out. So when you think about your life story, like 20 years ago, I was just so incredibly blessed to think, wow, if we could have rewound, you know, if we could have fast forward, would our life be like this? And I don't think I would have answered yes. And so every day, I'm just so thankful. I'm thankful. Honestly, I'm thankful for an unplanned pregnancy that, quite honestly, we gave Alexis life, and quite honestly, she saved ours.
No.
She did. And so from this little girl's prayer to our whole family's testimony, I think that it just proves that there's so much that God wants in your life. And God knew. God knew when I was born that this story was going to happen. And He knew when Alexis was born what her purpose would be. And I just think it's just so awesome to see it play out.
As I said before, I'm truly thankful for our church, for First Baptist Church of Umatilla. You know, is the best in my eyes. The camaraderie, the fellowship, the programs. You could fit in anywhere you want to go, in any direction that you want to go to continue to stay plugged in. I can't thank Awana's enough. She got saved in Awana's. I got saved through her getting saved in Awana's. She got saved. Ava got saved at Awana on Crazy Sock Night
With Miss Lori.
with Miss Lori. Woohoo! So it's, you know, if we didn't invest in our next generation, this wouldn't be happening. And you know, and we all have led other people to Christ, and we don't want to stop. I'm not perfect by any means. I have so much more to change, to fine tune. That's why you keep going back. It's not over because I've overcome my biggest struggle, alcohol and drugs and tobacco. There's more to go. I have so much more, but if we don't have a church like our church, it's not going to happen, you know. And I encourage everybody, you know, I try to tell this to everybody. I know there's so much drugs and alcohol in our community, a widespread of it. Don't give up on people that are struggling. It's not easy. It's not easy at all, and without Jesus Christ, it's even harder. So just continue to pray. Prayer works, and I will be willing to help anybody at any time with any questions, or I'll do my best to help anybody with alcohol or drug addiction.
I have something now.
All right.
And,
Go right ahead.
And like, because you saw that he wasn't really listening to you when you kept on praying for him and telling him stuff about Jesus and stuff. And at least, and it's always good that you have to have hope, because if you gave up on hope, he wouldn't be here. He wouldn't be changing the lives of the other kids. And you just can't give up on people no matter how, whatever they're doing or however they are, because they can change as easily as someone can go. And it's hard to keep giving hope in somebody who just won't listen. But
Stubborn people, we don't have that in our family.
well, used to. But yeah, if you just give up, nothing's gonna change. Then you just wasted time. If you keep it going, you're gonna thank yourself one day, because you're gonna be the reason why.